Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over one of the big endgame systems for Diablo 4. And this is called the Paragon board. And this is going to be replacing the Paragon system from Diablo 3 and transforming it into this big sprawling passive skill tree, something much more inspired by Path of Exile's massive skill tree. And recently we even got to see this system's UI actually implemented into the game. So it does seem that they are going ahead with this system, which seems like it'll be a pretty big staple of the end game for Diablo 4. So in Diablo 4, we have placed a heavy emphasis on build customization, ensuring that you have plenty of control over how your hero grows. The Paragon board unlocks for each class at level 50 and is a distillation of this focus. Your hero begins their journey through the Paragon system at the central starting tile of their class's intro board. From there, you make selections radiating outward. Once your hero reaches a gate tile, you'll choose which new Paragon board you would like to attach to that location. The Paragon board is comprised of many fixed tiles. As a barbarian earns experience, they will earn Paragon points, which are used to unlock a connected tile. Now also, we got some new information on how this is all going to work. So essentially, once you beat the main campaign, you will generally be around level 45, and once you beat the campaign, it will guide you into the end game and you will start your end game activities. And once you hit level 50, you will unlock the Paragon board. Now max level in Diablo 4 is level 100, and in general you will be getting around 4 Paragon levels for every level you get after you unlock the board. And you can put 200 Paragon levels into the Paragon board system. So it does have a fixed level cap, so it's not infinite like the Paragon system of Diablo 3. Now starting off, these Paragon boards are split up between a bunch of different tiles, and these also follow the Rarity system in the rest of the game. So first off, you have normal tiles. These tiles are straightforward, providing a small but meaningful stat boost. Normal tiles are connective tissues that can be found throughout the board and are quite common. So the board is essentially a big grid of different choices you can put points into, and the most common ones that are only going to be base stat increases are also a primary way to getting to the more powerful tiles and moving throughout the trees in the way you want to. Then we have magic tiles. Magic tiles are found in clusters throughout the board and provide a potent, more diverse set of benefits. As you might expect, they're less common than normal tiles, but still plentiful. Now, I don't think these are actually shown in this work in progress image, but there's just going to be some clusters of magic tiles throughout these boards. And then rare tiles offer significant boosts in power. Upon entering the Paragon board for the first time, these represent great goals for players to chase, particularly once you've narrowed builds down towards highly specific goals. Rare tiles also have additional powers that unlock once the hero has raised an attribute to a sufficient level, requiring some choices to be made when plotting your path through the board. And they give examples, and we'll go over those once we're done with all the different tiles. And looking at this work in progress image, these rare tiles are shown as octagons, and in the one board they're showing, there are 6 rare tiles throughout it. And then we have legendary tiles. After the first Paragon board, each new board has a single legendary tile that can be found at its center. Legendary tiles impart a new legendary power to the character that earns it. So if this is a bit confusing, essentially how this works is you start at the center of your first board, and that is not going to be a legendary tile. But then once you get to one of the gates and connect another board to that first board, that next one will have a legendary tile in the center, and so on. So all of the Paragon boards besides your first one all have a legendary power sitting in the center. So for the examples, we have a common tile that just gives 5 strength, a magic tile gives 10 fire resistance, a rare tile called Hungering Fury grants 10 fury per kill, but then if you have 175 strength and 125 willpower, you gain 8% increased maximum fury. So with this being the case, rare tiles aren't something you just want to go get all of, because you're going to need certain stat requirements to get all of the effect of those tiles. Then the legendary tile called Warbringer is while your fury is above 50%, you deal 30% more damage. So legendary tiles are absolutely massive power increases. But those tiles aren't the only options for these boards, because next up we have a Glyphs and Sockets. A socket is a special tile that can contain a glyph. Glyphs are items found throughout Sanctuary that when embedded into a Paragon board confer various benefits based upon the number of active tiles within their radius. Glyphs can also be leveled up by delving into some particularly dangerous dungeons. Leveling up a glyph extends a radius of their effect, allowing each one to draw power from or impart power to even more tiles. I'm pretty sure these tiles are the ones with red rings around them. So essentially there are glyphs that are items you could obtain out in the world. You can also level up those items out in the world, and it seems they have different rarities as well. And you can slot these into those specific slots if you get to one, and then these glyphs will buff all tiles in a certain radius around it, either giving them boosted effect or giving them new power. And they have 3 examples here. So first off, they have a magic rarity one, which is blue. It's also a level 3, and the radius size of this is small. Grant 30% bonus to all nodes within range. Now also something to note is since they're already set on the board, I'm assuming there's not going to be any of these that are next to a legendary power. And from looking at the board, there may only be a couple that could even potentially affect rare powers. But then we have a rare glyph called Exploit. This one's level 8. Its radius size is medium, and for every 10 dexterity purchased within range, you deal 13.5% increased damage to vulnerable targets and grant 40% bonus to all nodes within range. So finally, we have the rare glyph called Conquer, and this one's level 15, and this one has a radius size of large, and for every 10 willpower purchased within range, you deal 31.5% increased overpowered damage. And then also it grants 4 strength for each willpower purchased within range. So these can give you pretty significant buffs to your stats and can also just give you massive power increases. And they also show this on this work in progress board. So at one section, they have the red circled tile slot, which is a socket, and they're showing essentially how it would be if you put a glyph into that. So then in a certain radius around it, it has this zone, and all of the tiles around that you have purchased now are getting additional benefits. And I'm not sure how big of a glyph size this one would be, but you're able to increase the radius of these glyphs by leveling them up through doing specific dungeons. So if you don't understand this, essentially there's just socket tile slots that you put glyphs into that empower all tiles around them with additional effects. So then we have gate tiles and a board selection. A single gate tile lies at each edge of the Paragon board. As you progress through the Paragon board, you will eventually reach a gate tile, which upon unlocking will allow you to select a new Paragon board to attach to your existing board. Each of these boards have unique tile layouts, new magic and rare tiles, and a legendary tile at the center. The Paragon board is extended from these gate tiles. Upon selecting from the Paragon board list, you will be able to place a board down, connecting it to a newly unlocked gate tile. You may also optionally rotate that newly placed board. Now it can be a little bit confusing explaining this, but if we look at the work in progress board, you start at the very center, and then on each side there is a gate. Now once you get to that gate, you are then able to select another board to attach to that gate. And I'm not sure how big of a selection of other boards it will have, but the boards are unique and aren't randomized or anything. So you will be able to choose between a selection of different boards to try to plot out where you want to go for whatever build you're currently using. You're also able to spin that other board before you select it. So you can start on whichever of the 4 sides you want to start on. And then you connect that board, and then you start progressing through that board as well. Now, like I mentioned, this does have a cap, which is currently at 200 Paragon points, but you will probably have a decent selection of boards that you are going to connect in different ways than other people, and you are able to spin and start at whichever side you want to start at. So even within the same class and even within similar builds, people's Paragon boards are going to look completely differently. They're going to be spinned in different directions. People are going to have different boards at different parts, and their points spent throughout the different boards themselves are also going to look completely different. So this is going to give you a lot more customization than anything in Diablo 3 ever gave us. So that's pretty much all the information we have for the Paragon boards, and these are clearly pretty heavily inspired by the massive skill tree in Path of Exile, and it's clearly not going to be that complicated and that daunting, and I think they're specifically doing it this way where they're starting out you on one board, then you go through it a bit, connect another board to it. I think they're doing that to make it much more approachable for less experienced players, because you only have to take a section at a time. But if you go to something like Path of Exile, I think their tree has like over 1,300 points you can go and spec into, which is probably the most daunting thing for new players in pretty much any game I've ever seen. And I do like this bigger emphasis on endgame that Diablo 4 is going to have. The developers have already specifically mentioned this, that Diablo 3 didn't have an endgame, but Diablo 4 is being built as a live service with having an endgame once the game is released, and this is definitely going to be a piece of that build customization. And I'm very interested to see what type of buffs and different powers you're going to be able to get on these different boards, because also keep in mind that these boards are specifically built for the different classes. You're not going to be sharing a board between the different classes, so every single class is going to have their own boards with their own powers, their own stats, and their own build potential, plotting out their course through the different boards. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about Paragon boards for Diablo 4, and thanks for watching.